In the shadow of a cold December moon, two identical twin sisters walked separate paths of fate, though they were unaware of each other's existence. One, Clara, grew up in a loving home surrounded by warmth and affection. The other, Celine, was abandoned, left to fend for herself in the cruelty of an orphanage that seemed to feast on misery. Celine's years of neglect twisted her into something dark. She grew up consumed by a deep-seated rage and longing for answers about why she was cast aside. Over the years, her desire for connection curdled into a relentless obsession, finding the sister she had discovered through an old birth certificate. In her mind, Clara represented everything Celine was denied: a life, love, and light. Clara's world was blissful but uneventful until the night she came home to find a box on her doorstep. Inside was a single photograph of two baby girls, identical in every way. Beneath it was a note scrawled in jagged handwriting: "You stole the life that should have been mine. I'm coming for you, sister." Chills ran down Clara's spine as she struggled to make sense of it. A sibling? She had no memory, no inkling. She turned to her parents, only for them to confess the truth. Clara had a twin, but the adoption agency had deemed Celine unfit for placement, due to her volatile behavior as a child. The separation had been a choice they made to protect Clara, but Celine had found her now. In the days that followed, Clara felt the walls closing in. She received more unsettling gifts: a lock of hair that matched her own, a mangled childhood teddy bear, and finally, a blood-red rose with a knife stuck through its center. Each delivery brought her closer to the edge of paranoia. She changed her locks, called the police, but no one could find any trace of her twin. One stormy night, the power went out. Clara sat huddled in her living room, clutching a kitchen knife, when the silence was broken by the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps above her. Someone was inside. Heart-pounding, Clara crept up the staircase, her breath hitching with every step. She turned the corner to her bedroom and froze. There, in the dim light of a flickering candle, stood Celine, a mirror image of herself, only distorted. Celine's eyes burned with an unhinged fury, her lips curled into a feral smile. "You look just like me," Celine whispered, tilting her head, "but you're everything I'm not, and for that you must pay." Clara barely had time to react before Celine lunged, knife in hand. They clashed, twin against twin, the room filled with grunts and the sound of shattering glass. But Clara, fueled by years of love and hope, fought back with everything she had. In a desperate move, she managed to disarm Celine and pin her down. "Why are you doing this?" Clara cried, tears streaming down her face. "Because you were chosen," Celine hissed, "and I was thrown away." For a moment, Clara saw the broken girl behind the madness, but the sound of sirens outside snapped her back to reality. The police arrived just in time to take Celine away, kicking and screaming, her hatred echoing into the night. Though Clara was safe, the encounter left her scarred. She often wondered if Celine could have been saved if their lives had been different. But as she stared at her own reflection in the mirror, she couldn't shake the feeling that a part of her would always be tethered to the darkness of her twin. Several years had passed since Clara's life was nearly destroyed by her twin Celine. The haunting memories had faded, replaced by a quiet, happy life with her high school sweetheart, Aaron, and their beautiful twin daughters, Lily and Grace. Clara poured all her love into her family, determined to give her daughters the warmth and security she had always cherished. One crisp autumn evening, Clara arrived home from work, her arms full of the day's mail. She sifted through it absent-mindedly: bills, advertisements, credit card offers. Then her hand froze as she noticed a bright pink envelope nestled within the stack. Its colour was garish, unnatural, a stark contrast to the mundane correspondence surrounding it. Setting her keys on the counter, Clara walked into the kitchen and opened the envelope. The paper inside smelled faintly of artificial roses, the handwriting jagged and familiar. As her eyes skimmed the words, her stomach dropped. A cold sweat broke across her skin and her breath caught in her chest. "Dear Clara, after 4 long years of rehabilitation, the doctors and nurses at the Institute have finally declared me sane. Imagine that. You sent me there against my will, and yet I suppose I should thank you. The isolation gave me time to nurture something far more potent than forgiveness: hatred. Our first meeting didn't end as I intended, but now I'm free. Free to finish what I started. I'm coming for you, dear sister. Signed, Celine. P.S. Your husband is cute. The letter fell from Clara's trembling hands, fluttering to the floor like a fallen leaf. Her mind reeled. Celine was out, free. After all this time, the nightmare she thought was over had resurfaced, more vicious than ever. She rushed to check the locks on the doors and windows, her heartbeat pounding like a war drum in her ears. She thought of Aaron, her girls. She thought of how easily Celine could slip into their lives undetected. They were twins, after all, two sides of the same coin. The faint giggle of Lily and Grace drifted from the living room, grounding her in the moment. Clara's hands clenched into fists. She had fought once to protect herself, and she'd fight again if it meant keeping her family safe. But deep down, a sliver of dread whispered that Celine wasn't just coming for her this time. She was coming for everything Clara loved.
I hope you enjoyed this short story. If you did, please consider leaving a like, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more stories.